Seeing as skateboarding was invented in the United States of America, you would think and kind of expect for American athletes to dominate at the Olympics. After all, they've been in the country that's, you know, invented it, it's been doing it the longest, has the most support, the most skate parks. But that definitely wasn't the case. Japan crushed everybody. Last night was the final event of skateboarding in the Olympics, the men's park final, and Keegan Palmer from Australia won the gold. But out of the 4 events in the Olympics, 3 of them were dominated by Japanese athletes. So the topic of today's video is, why is Japan dominating so much in skateboarding, and what can we learn from it to actually help us improve our skating? Before we get into this video about Japanese robotics, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at The Local Joe. Remember to make every single day a Friday. You can get a Friday t-shirt in the link in the description if you'd like to support the channel. So unfortunately, I didn't film this talking part when I was supposed to at the skate park, so I'm going to be cutting back and forth between my skate sessions, so quickly, let's just go through the warm-up.
I think you only love me cause I'm poppin'. This a layup, this a rebound, then it's Robin. Tyson with the fade, not the hair, my hands rockin'. When I link with ball point, you know it's knockin'. I'm not the same. Thinking money made me change, nothing else to blame. Bougie stuck up in my way, singing Gucci gang. Gucci, Gucci, Gucci gang, think I'm Gucci Mane. I'm just playing in the cut, I got my Vans on. I'm not selfish, I get on and put my mans on. Always greedy since the day I got my first safe. 5'7", but I'm...
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard somebody refer to a skateboarder style as robotic? The first time I heard somebody say this was about Nige Houston when he started dominating street league contests, like, I don't know, like 10 years ago. Long time. He's been crushing it for a long time. The second time I heard it was about Shane O'Neill. Shane O'Neill does tricks just so perfect it doesn't even look real. And some people say it doesn't even look hard, like he makes it look too easy. And then the third person I hear people say this about a lot is Yuto Horigome, who actually won gold in the men's street final. Just the way that they do tricks, it's so second nature. It almost looks like they're rolling up and doing an easy trick that it's just so effortless that you kind of become desensitized to the fact they're doing, you know, the hardest tricks ever on like big stuff. It kind of makes your head spin a little bit when they're doing the hardest tricks and making it look easy. It almost seems like they're a robot and they can just download a trick and just go do it, no questions asked. Now obviously that's far from the truth. The only way you get to be that robotic or that consistent is by putting hours and hours and hours of practice into skateboarding. When Nige Houston was a kid, his parents owned a skate park slash really his kind of training facility, and he would do this super methodical system of practicing tricks. So I'm not sure if this was his choice or if his dad forced him to, but basically he would have this giant list of tricks that he had to do every single session before he could ever try to learn any new tricks or try anything else. He would basically have just one big warm-up where he would just start from the easy trick and go all the way to the hard trick, and then if he was able to get through the giant list, he would learn a new trick and then he would add the new trick to his list, and he would just keep going through and building layer on layer, tricks on tricks, and doing that, you know, year after year. It makes sense how he became so consistent and just almost, you know, kind of robotic, because when you've done a trick 100 times day after day after day after day, it does start to become second nature. This level of like discipline and that very methodical, boring approach is very rare, especially for a skateboarder, because skateboarders, we like to go and just cruise and enjoy skateboarding, and it's really kind of our escape. Skateboarders are not known for their athletic discipline. It's very rare to find skateboarders that are as methodical as Nige Houston, Shane O'Neill, and Yuto Horigome. However, in Japan, the culture is a lot different than it is here in America where skateboarding started. Japanese culture is much more structured and much more focused. And so when you take a culture like that and then you start to put skateboarding into it, you basically have structure, skateboarding, they make a baby, and you have Yuto Horigome. Sora Shirai, all the other Kinosuke, Yamashita, all these other crazy Japanese skateboarders. So you contrast this super structured, methodical approach to the skateboarding of somebody like Ashad Ware, who's just very go with the flow, loose, easy on the eyes. You see there is a lot of flair and a lot of individuality in his skateboarding. He's one of the least robotic looking skateboarders, but he also doesn't do great in contests. So you kind of have these two sides of the spectrum, the Yuto Horigome super structured and the Ashad Ware super unstructured. Both are incredibly skilled, incredibly talented, but you can see how the way that they practice and the way that they approach skating affects the end result or the end product that we actually get to see. This more structured approach that is really common with these Japanese skaters obviously leads to a lot of contest success. However, the question is being that consistent, that robotic, does that translate to street skateboarding? Does that translate into making a video part that's fun to watch and something that gets you hyped to go skate? Personally, the people that get me the most hyped to skate are not necessarily the most skilled skaters on a skateboard. Usually there's just certain tricks that they do and the way that they do them that inspire me the most. For example, I love Jamie Foy, Ashad Ware, Kyle Walker. I mean, Ashad Ware is kind of like the GOAT, but Jamie Foy is obviously incredibly talented, but there's a big difference between Jamie Foy and Shane O'Neill. Kyle Walker obviously insanely talented, but these are not great contest skaters, but they're my favorite to watch video parts. And that's the sick thing about skateboarding, is really there is room for all, because skateboarding was an art before it was ever a sport. So you can choose your approach. You can choose to be really methodical and consistent, and maybe that will lead you down a path to look more like Yuto Horigome or Shane O'Neill. Or you can just enjoy skating and skate a lot and just be flowy, lead you more to be like maybe Kyle Walker or Ashad Ware. Obviously you don't just pick one, and I want to talk about why I think you should incorporate more of this methodical approach into your skateboarding to help take your skateboarding to the next level. Before we get into that, let's go ahead and catch the rest of the skateboard session.
I'm so unashamed, throw it to my veins. Like my 2K green or blue, I'm not into games. Focus on your player's face while I'm stacking change. We throw out what you got on your whole crew late. Every time I drop it, knock you make the school face. I can't stand to be around people who are two-faced. I can't stand to do some business if you're too late. I beat the beater defeated, I beat the beater mistreated, I beat the odds deleted.
So I've personally started to adopt a more methodical approach to my skateboarding. I've always been a little bit like anal and a little bit obsessive about skateboarding. I have to do tricks in a certain way, in a certain order. But this last year, as I've gotten back into skateboarding, about 6 months ago, I decided to start doing a warm-up every single time I skated. I would force myself to have a set of tricks that I had to do before I could start skating. Similar to Nige Houston, but obviously I was doing simple stuff. Like I would do every back 180 in every stance and every pop shove it in every stance, and then I would try and do the straight 8, and I can't do switch or nollie, so I would force myself to at least try those every single session. But basically I wanted to create a foundation of skills that I could start to build upon and stack other blocks on top of. If you don't have a strong foundation, it's hard to build. Whereas if you start with a solid base, it's easy to start layering one trick on the next, on the next, on the next. And so that's what I started to do, and over the last 6 months, my skateboarding has improved dramatically. And I would have to say that a large part of it is thanks to this more methodical approach. Now obviously it doesn't have to be all one way or all the other. I usually warm up and keep it very methodical for probably the first 20 minutes to 30 minutes of the session, and then after that I'll learn whatever I want to learn and just kind of enjoy skateboarding. But by taking a small dose of that Japanese discipline and structure, I can honestly say it's benefited my skateboarding. And if you don't have a structured warm-up or routine that you go through every time that you skate. I would highly recommend, and I promise that if you give yourself a list of tricks to do every single time, it will start to train your muscles and make you a much better skateboarder. That muscle memory will get locked in, and I think you're gonna notice a huge improvement in your skateboarding. You may have noticed that when I was skating that bump, I started by doing an ollie and then did back 180, front 180, pop shove, front shove, kick flip, heel flip. And then once I did all of those basic tricks, I started to do a tray flip, which is a trick that I am horrible at, but because I took the time to build up to it, I was actually able to land a tray flip out of that bump relatively quickly. And I even surprised myself, to be honest, but I would have to give credit to the fact that I took the time and methodically went through the tricks from the easiest to the hardest, and giving myself that foundation, I was able to make progress a lot faster than if I had just started trying tray flip right out of the gate. So that's pretty much my rant or my thoughts on why the Japanese are so dominant in skateboarding and why they made the Americans look like they were on the JV team. It's because they are bred to shred. Consistency and discipline is just part of their culture, and I think it's very admirable, and it's something that you should take notes on if you want to take your skating to the next level. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and subscribe and like the video. That way YouTube will send more of them to you. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at The Local Joe. Remember to make every single day a Friday, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.